Hopefully, people can hear me. Alright, right now I am just testing everything out and trying to make sure all my sounds are being captured and everything is working the way it is intended. If anybody is there and you could send a message, that'd be great. I hear I'm a little quiet. Let me see about fixing that. Is that a little better? Hear me a little bit better now? Can you hear me a little bit better now? Better? Okay. Excellent. Are you hearing the music? What about now? Should sound a little bit like drum beats. All right, let's see what we can do about that. All right. It's not too loud. It doesn't overwhelm my voice. What about that? How's that? All right. All right. By the lag pile in EQ1. All right. I am obviously by the lag pile in EQ1. You can see. So I'm going to wait to see if anybody else joins. And while I do that, I am headed to the plane of time in EQ1. I will head over to the planes in EQ2 in just a minute. Alright. Have I finished zoning? Yes, excellent. So I will start in a minute with discussions about the full cosmology. We're going to start with discussing basically the nameless, the void, and kind of how the planes fit together. As much as we know, which, to be quite honest, isn't all that much. I welcome questions. I am in the EQ2 Antonia Vale roleplay Discord, if anybody wants to speak to me. Hi, Vrac. Reminds me. And again, I am in EQ1 and EQ2 right now. So in EQ1, to get to the planes, you just click a book of knowledge, and then from the plane of knowledge, you go to the plane of tranquility. And the plane of tranquility, for reasons that we never find out, kind of touches all the other planes. So I'm headed to the plane of time right now, because it seems like a good place to start. Also, I'm sitting in my hot tub, chilling in EQ2, because why not? Indoor plumbing is big. It's amazing. And from the plane of time, we're going to at least one copy or one version of the void that EQ1 has. EQ1 actually has multiple versions of the void because you do things that change the version of the void that you're in. I have not done all those things yet. So we are going to the version of the void where basically everything has gone wrong, and Zebaruxuk is sitting there being very sad as Norath has been destroyed. And the gods have all been destroyed too. Or maybe this is one that I've done something in. I don't remember. Because usually Vishan, there we go. Where's Vishan? She's usually in here. Dead. Maybe I fixed that part. It's been a very long time since I did much with this character. But yeah, you can see pieces of Norath have broken off. In fact, we will do this real quick. And bring on the character I know has not finished all that stuff yet. So to really talk about how the planes and cosmology of Norath works, there's the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to really look at it from a D&D perspective, because EQ really has an unclear cosmology. We know that there are different planes of existence and there are different material realms. We've heard about Mismir, the lands of the Jail Wraith. You know, we know that Bertoxulus and Rodset Knife weren't native to Norath. We know in EQ1 that we have the Alarans and the Draghorn. We go to another planet, the Kua planet. So we visit a bunch of different planets and we visit different planes, right? You even have the Rift Seekers, who are also planar traveling races that aren't from Norath. So you have those two, and it's never really clear exactly how those two things connect. The planes versus the planets. And to kind of put that together in a way that makes sense, one of the things that I think is useful is to actually look at the original map of the planes that Bill Trost, who is one of the original creators of EverQuest, actually did. So the world of EverQuest is not solely the mind of Bill Trost, but it is very, very largely the mind of Bill Trost, and Valen, and many, many others have contributed over the years. But Bill Trost did kind of the foundations of what we now know as Norath, and the world that we enjoy of EverQuest. So give me just 1 second here, and I am going to show you the original drawing. So this is the original drawing that Bill Trost did. You can actually see his little signature over here, courtesy of Sony. And this is how he set up the planes of Norath. It's a little hard to read, so we'll go through. It has the plane, or the realm of heroes. Apologies. The material plane is in the middle, and then you have your elemental planes, and then the planes in the middle. And then planes kind of derive off of these core planes that are on the outer circle. And in EQ2, we are given this. In EQ2, this image comes from the plane of knowledge. It does not exist in the plane of knowledge in EQ1 as such. But again, we see that same kind of structure. And to kind of show that, we have this right here, where I have overlaid the original map that Bill Trost drew and kind of put it on top of the EQ2 map. And the reason I say that is similar in D&D terms are really useful to use here is because this is what cosmology looks like in Dungeons and Dragons. You have your core planes, your outer planes, your inner planes. Lower and upper planes doesn't really matter. That's kind of closer to good and evil. But you have like the planes of law or order and the planes of chaos or discord. And then, your material realms, your elemental planes and things like that. And again, if you lay that over the original drawing, you can see that they line up. And if you lay it up over the actual screenshot, it also looks pretty similar. So there's a lot of parallels there that I think are really particularly useful when trying to talk about EQ lore with the planes. So in EQ terms, we have kind of 3 to 4 layers of planes or divinities. You start with the things that you can kind of think of as excluding the nameless. You have like the universal truths. You have order and chaos. Time. Time kind of exists outside of the standard planes. The void exists outside of some of those standard planes. These things are all kind of universal and exist across all realms, across all planes. They touch multiple planes, right? So the plane of time doesn't just touch time, it touches all the elemental planes and things like that. Then you have the elemental planes, and these are what creation is kind of made for. And then you have the gods of nature and influence, and then you have the demigods, and then under that you've got us piddly mortals who are basically gods at this point for some of us, but the NPCs are not gods. The Etherneer, the Etherneer is a plane that is death. Death is a universal plane as well. And in those universal kind of planes, one of the things that I consider in there to be is the spirit and the spiritual plane. So that would be the planes of the Etherneer. That would be Drenal's plane. It would also be the plane of dawn, where Ihaye, or however you pronounce that, lives. And then the spirit world of the prime or material plane, which is the domain of predominantly Sateb Malni. Whereas in D&D, you have the material plane, which is where your mortals reside. This is also called the prime or primal plane. And in EQ2 we have, and in EQ we have the prime plane, right? That's Norath. I would also argue that the prime plane is not just Norath, the realm of heroes is not just Norath, but it is anything that we classify exclusively as a planet, right? Any world. So that would include Luckland, the moon, right? That would also include Kua. That would include the realms, or the planets of Discord and the planets of Order that we just don't know about. Perhaps where whatever planet Rodset Knife and Bertoxulus originally came from. Those would all be included. Then you have the Transitive Planes. These are planes that exist in overlapping spaces. They often have their own natives, but are mostly seen as kind of between other planes. So these are planes that I would consider like Ulterra, right? So Ulterra is the space between. We know it is not actually meant to be a space that anybody actually lives in. It is supposed to be the place that we use that exists between planes. It exists between dimensions. It's how you get between dimensions. It's kind of like the astral plane in D&D terms. Unfortunately for the poor unfortunate erudites who did their silly little experiments, they are trapped in Ulterra. And the reason that they actually can exist and be trapped in Ulterra is because they are both anchored to Norath and they're anchored to the plane of the Underfoot. So those two anchors kind of hold them steady there and go back and forth. And then they've got a pull from the void as well. And it just holds the old planes, or old islands of Otis there, and allows them to continue existing. It also, in EQ2, allows the travel between spires now. With arguably, now that the Nexus is reconstructed, we could teleport based on the Nexus spire, but originally in EQ2, we lost the ability to travel because what allowed us to travel through Ulterra was the Nexus spires. When those were destroyed by Ralosek and Soyusekro, that's when you got the loss of teleportation magic on Norath, the loss of the ability to travel through Ulterra. And it was only with the experiments of the erudites and putting kind of the anchor, the Nexus. They created an actual Nexus out here in Ulterra. I should have teleported there, huh? In Stonebrun Highlands. They have the Ulteran Spire of the Grand Pharisian Nexus. And this is the anchor that current teleportation magic in EQ2 functions on. Other transitive planes, like the plane of shadow in D&D terms, is probably the void. So I think there are two voids that we're going to find in Norath. I think your primary void is space, right? And I think that that's kind of clear as we go through here. Enter the void. Look at a lever zone. While we're doing that, let's look at Ulterra. So you can see there's a little bit of sky, but it's more this kind of orange and purple. It's not a plane that's really meant for people to exist in. And in fact, if you were to fall, you actually die. I think we have one other place that we see Ulterra, that we actually see physically anchor to in Ulterra in EQ2, and I think that that is the Precipice of Power. So the Precipice of Power is where the avatars of the gods are, or at least some of the gods that you can fight. We aren't really given any lore of it, but as an in-between, it kind of makes sense that we can get there. And actually, we're not going to head there yet. We will come back to the Precipice of Power. Now I want to go to... Yeah. Norath is a realm of heroes. So Norath is the realm of heroes because that's where us cool people live, and all the non-heroes don't live on Norath. Just gonna check to make sure I don't have any messages. Does not look like I do. So these right here are anchors that are anchors to the void, allowing the void to touch Norath. So in the beginning, the Nameless, aka our developers, existed in the void / chaos, right? They existed in what you could kind of think of as pure creation, pure creative energy. There was no the wild, I guess, if you were to talk about it in certain game terms. It's just pure chaos, pure creativity, pure discord, and it exists there. It's a roiling mass, and that is where the Nameless exists. He said essentially, let there be light, and he created existence or creation as separate from the void. And then he created dominant structures or dominant beings to harness this power. He created the 4 elemental gods that we know of, and we have earth, fire, water, and air. And then he created Rowan Thyr to guard the balance of the universe, right? To basically maintain that order and chaos never went out of balance, or creation and a lack of creation, discord, never went out of balance. That was his job. The elemental gods and the planes of power that they manage are essential parts of the celestial order. They must exist. They are the boundaries of creation. They hold creation in. So if we go back over here to our map, you can see air, water, fire, and earth. Those are the planes of order. We're told this in the lore. But there exist planes in between those planes of order, and these are the planes of discord or chaos, right, where the 2 elements bump up against each other. We know that they exist because we see representations of them, but to my knowledge, and I could be corrected, but to my knowledge, we have never been there. So you have fog, steam, mud, and lava. And what's interesting is that they actually associate different gods or domains of influence with those. But these are kind of the struggle. These represent the struggle and the discord between water and air, right? So the discord between water and air, that when they don't like to get along, is fog, right? No, the Triumvirate of Water is not one being, in the same way that the Wraith is not one being. but they are considered a single entity at the same time. So you have the Triumvirate of Water, you had the Wraith Council. They aren't one person, they aren't one entity, but they are seen as one and act as one. So fire, earth, air, and water transcend Norath. So they are not unique to Norath. In the creation story, we're kind of told that the original EQ creation story, that is, they touch all planes, all places of creation. Every material plane that exists is bound by water, air, fire, and earth. And what you see and I see when I go to fire or earth or air is only where that elemental plane actually touches our prime existence. So if we're in the plane of water, the plane of water that we see is only that plane of water that is closest to Norath. If you were to go to the plane of water on Kua, not that you can really go to Kua because it's destroyed, but if you were to go there and touch that plane of water from there, you would experience a different part of the elemental plane. So mortals can only access small bits of these planes where they overlap and are formed to kind of touch that tangible existence, right? So water has to touch Norath in order for us to have water. It's a quintessential aspect of life. So this is the Void Anchor, and I'm mostly... Oh, I'm probably going to have to kill my way back, huh? Well, while we're murdering. This is the void that I was talking about originally in EQ1, that you can see there is our sun, that is Ro, and it is being destroyed. There is a dead Vishamp, and there's EverQuest over there, and you can see it's space. The void is space. And so that's one of the reasons that I think that there are multiple versions of the void, or kind of aspects of the void, because I believe that you have the void that is actual space between planets, and the void that is the plane, the planar existence. So I think the void that is the planar existence, I think, exists outside the bounds of creation, right? So you have little void, little v, much like you have the little underfoot and the big underfoot, the little underfoot being literally under the ground in Norath, and then you have the big uppercase underfoot, which is the plane of Rel. I think you also have that same aspect with the little void, which is space. So it's the place between. It is the literal, space between Lucklin and Norath, or Drenal and Norath, or the other planes, or other planets. We know that we have multiple other planets in our solar system. So we've just never been there. And who knows, maybe one of them is Kua. I believe that some of them are defined. I don't know that all of them are defined. I would have to look that one up. Oh, come on. Give me a mercenary that'll actually beat things up. Come out here and kill everything for me, because I'm lazy. Any questions so far as I meander my way back to get to the void window? I should have just gone to tour the house, huh? Now that I think about it. It's been so long since I've been to these zones. I see you, Lurker Book Elf. But, the doorway, so there are actually multiple kind of pathways into the Underfoot when you get deep enough. We don't actually know all the paths to Brell's Plane. We know that there are multiple. And we know this because the Rotanga came from the Underfoot. They came up from the actual plane. So the one in Otis happened, the hole. Yeah, you've got the burn eye as well. Yeah. The hole actually happened because Erudites were doing stupid experiments again. And, well, not experiments. They got into a war. Basically, they disagreed. They had a quintessential disagreement on necromancy. And so Paniel and Eridan got into a war. And, yep, they made the kitties go boom. They exploded their area, and they put a giant hole and took out, actually, Eridan took out, because it was Eridan, they took out most of Paniel. So you actually have old Paniel that is underground and they blew the hole deep enough that it actually went to where that border between the little Underfoot and the big Underfoot is. And it was actually, a seal was put up, and it was guarded by Master Yale. And they put a big door over it in EQ1, and then of course in EQ2 you have the explosion where that whole area went to Ulterra, and in EQ1 you actually have that seal get broken, and we go to the plane of the Underfoot. Oh, there we go. That's what I was looking for. So see, this doesn't look the same as other voids. You can see some of the stars and everything else. So, but this looks closer to raw chaos. This looks closer to raw discord. So what I think is that once you get past creation, once you get past the galaxies and the solar systems and everything else you have outside that boundary, that's where the void exists. That is big void, the plane of the void, where the nameless, and the nameless actually I think doesn't even exist in that. I think he exists outside past that into pure discord, because I don't think there can be an existence of life or being other than the nameless outside of that. And I think that that's the ability to cross over between to cross the little voids, to go from planet to planet, to go from material realm to material realm, is one of the things that makes Vishan a unique goddess in the pantheon. We have hints, I can't say we know, but we have hints that she was actually worshipped by the Dragorn, and she's the same goddess, going by another name, on their planet of Kua. So we think that that's Vishan as well. And we know that, again, she can travel in that area, because not only do we see it right here, but... No, sorry, wrong thing. Let me close that. Bring this over here. I'm gonna need to go to my school. Computer doesn't like me doing all this stuff at once. Let's see if I can find what I'm looking for.
Most intelligent.
Yep, got it right over here. So we're gonna watch this video. Let me just pause the actual music. So this, kicking it super old school, is the original trailer.
Amongst the most intelligent races of
So there's Vishan.
First came the dragons. The great crystalline dragon, ruler over the plane of sky, deposited life onto a lifeless planet, and with one swipe of her mighty claws, laid claim to the promise of a new world. Norath quickly developed from infancy.
So I think here, you know, we have Vishan as the ruler of the plane of sky, and you can actually go to the plane of sky in EQ1.
Towns became cities.
And I think that
cities became kingdoms.
Vishan is like the ruler of the little void, if that makes sense. And we do not know who the ruler of the big void is. The big void is outside the bounds of what we know. And the reason I don't think that there are two is because there's clearly space that we travel through. But it doesn't make sense. We know in EQ2 we've been told, and in EQ1 for that matter now, we know that Anashti, Sul, and Rowan Thier were both banished to the void. And if they were banished to the void, if it were just space, it would be easier for them to be interacted with, right? If Rowan Thier was just banished to space, he might encounter, you know, Vishan, who flies through space and things like that. So I think they were banished to a different planar dimension, and it is pure chaos, or not pure chaos, it's chaos and discord. It's where the gods of discord actually live, and I think that that's why they had to put in place all these void anchors, you know, that anchor this place to our realm, so that they could use those anchors as a point to get closer, to kind of bring themselves from the void that is way out there, and again, to go back. Watch our very, very terrible wood elf kill this poor little ogre. Oh no. Oh no, the poor ogre. And the creepy gnomes and dwarves. Yeah, dark elf. Look at that dark elf haircut. And the barbarians.
It is the adventure
He got axed.
that awaits the bold and daring. It is the land of EverQuest.
There you go. That is some old school graphics, let me tell you. So let's find. Hopefully I didn't close it. Did not. Okay. So again, if we go back to the original D&D drawing, right? So this is how D&D defines things. You have the planes of law on the left, the planes of chaos, so order and chaos on the right and left hand sides. You have the material plane, and the material plane is defined by fire, air, water, and earth, same as ours. And then outside of that, you see you've kind of got elemental chaos, that would be space. And then outside of all of that is where you have, you know, the boundaries or the end of creation, and that's where in EQ terms, I believe that the void, the big void, the plane void exists. And again, we'll go back to our original drawing. So in EQ, we also, like I said, we've never been to these planes of discord. But I found this image particularly interesting because of where it puts the gods of influence, right? So the elemental gods exist. The end. They cannot not exist. They are required to exist. And if you are an elemental god and you decide that you don't want to follow your purpose anymore, you will not be an elemental god. You cannot not fulfill your purpose. You will actually be destroyed, and another god will take your place. And the other thing that was said in the creation story of EverQuest 2 is that the gods, so you have the elemental gods, and the elemental gods originally kind of created creation and player races and NPC races, and through the gods of influence that arose, that was how the Nameless experienced his creation. He cannot directly touch us because he is a being of pure creation, right? And instead, he has to create or experience things through his avatars, which are the actual gods. So I talked about the Void and how I think it's, kind of analogous to the Shadow Plane in D&D terms, and how I think there's two versions of the Void. If we talk about Ethereal Planes, you have obviously the realm of Drenal, which is death, but you also have the Akashic Never There. The Akashic Never There is, very, very rarely or barely mentioned in EQ2, and it is a primary mage plane. It's got like 22 references, period. I think that the Akashic Never There is the equivalent of where magic or mana exists. It is an ethereal plane. It is where you can create pocket realities. It is literally it's a transitive plane in that it's in between the planes, and it's kind of where mana exists and collects. So, when we kind of touch places or go to, like, when the chronomancers start the events for the anniversary, right? And you go into that in-between realm, that pocket realm, I think that that's us touching the Akashic Never There. We know that through the Mage Epic in EQ2, we know that some powerful mages have actually made pocket realms in the Akashic Never There, workshops and things like that. And again, that ties into kind of how you see those pocket realms and pocket dimensions exist in D&D. I think that Norath is the planet that is most centered to all of creation, right? So it is the largest anchor, the plane that is probably, or the prime existence that is probably the closest to all the elemental planes as well. Or it's just where we're centered on. Who knows? We aren't the devs. So our inner planes, like I said, are the building blocks of the universe. You have the elemental planes, and then you have what are the energy or esoteric planes. And this is where I think the plane of time comes in. We don't know who rules the plane of time, if it even has a ruler, but we do know that it exists and touches all times and all places at once. And then we have the Spirit Deities. And it's also interesting because we are never told who creates the Spirit Deities. We don't know much about them. They're just kind of considered other. But I think they represent the souls of the Primal Plane. The spirit, the existence, sentience in a fashion. And they are, your universal truths, right? Life and death, and the soul or the spirit that exists in all things. Sateb Mali talks about the true spirit. You have the true spirits of Norath. You have the soul and the existence of creation. And Ihaye, and I am probably butchering her name, is, dawn and life, and she balances out Drenal. So we have that. These are the kind of the three existences of Norath. I've been rambling on for 45 minutes now. Does anybody have any questions? While I head, where was I going to head? Oh, I was going to head to the Precipice of Power, so we could see the other place where I believe we have Ulterra. And again, this is the Void, and our poor dead Vishan, who is again, I mentioned that she is the goddess of sky. Oh, I'm gonna die. I fell into the void. I fell into space. Oh no. Oh, actually, I could hit my button. Oh, no, hey. They teleport you back up. Isn't that sweet of them? Let's go to... the Precipice of Power. Across both... What is my favorite plane in EQ1 and EQ2 for whatever reason? So when you say that, are you meaning... do you mean just in EQ1 and in EQ2 separately, or across both? If you're looking at EQ2, my favorite plane is probably, even though several of them are very, very gorgeous, my favorite plane in EQ2 is probably going to be the Plane of Hate. I have roleplayed Dark Elves since EQ1, and I just think the architecture of the Plane of Hate is gorgeous. There are two versions of the Shard of Hate, and it's just so pretty. It has a lot of atmosphere, and it's near and dear to my heart because my characters, worship an Auric. So I really, really like the Plane of Hate. Let's go to the Precipice of Power. In EQ1, that is much more difficult. EQ1 had so many more planar existences there. The planes in EQ1 are so much bigger. It was not the Plane of Hate in EQ1. I quite honestly got killed so many times in the Plane of Hate on raids that it just can't. So, the Plane of Hate, you cannot just walk into the Plane of Hate and the Plane of Sky in EQ1. They are the first planes that mortals had the ability to touch in EQ1 originally. And the only way we were able to teleport to the planes in EQ1 was we were taught how to get there. The Eldar Elves specifically were taught how to get there using Foligan stones. And so that Shisar knowledge was passed to the elves, and it allowed the Eldar elves to enter the Plane of Hate. And they were also able to use that same knowledge to go to the Plane of Sky. Let's see if I have these stones. I thought I did on my wizard. That's why I logged her in. I apologize in advance. It does not matter what character I'm on. I always have terrible inventory. So here's this Foligan soul stone of an Auric, and it's a sliver of stone upon which an Auric once trod. And then in the soul stone is, and that's unusual. It doesn't pop up the lore for me. Usually they do, the Cloudy Stone of Vishan, and that's how you get to the Plane of Sky and the Plane of Hate. And you have to have a wizard teleport you. Now there are NPCs that'll do it, but originally you could not get there without a wizard. And usually what happened is everybody else got invised and the wizard died. because you would pop up there and there were NPCs right there to kick you in the ass. So Plane of Hate was not my favorite. Let's see. You can go to the Plane of Magic as well in EQ1. Alter Plane Sky. EQ1 favorite is probably gonna be Doomfire. I had a lot of fun in Doomfire. I thought it was really pretty, really interesting to look at, a lot of fun. Really did not like Plane of Water because you were literally underwater and you got pushed everywhere. Any zone that was in the water in EQ1 was terrible. So while we zone there, and I have talked about these drawings ad nauseum, I will go ahead and start talking a little bit about the elemental planes. Because like I said, we don't really know much about the planes of Discord. We haven't actually been to the planes of those planes of Discord. The closest we've got to any plane of Discord is probably Kua. And Kua used to not be a plane of Discord. Like I said, the lore suggests that it was managed and run by Bishan, and that or rather she planted races there, not run. She doesn't run anything. She plants her races and poofs off to the next place. But the lore suggests that she was the one who created the Dragonborn, and the Dragonborn lost their war with Discord and the legions of Matamurum, and Discord took over their realm. And I think really what we see in... Oh, I bet I don't have all the keys. Can I buy the keys? It's been so long. Keymaster. Well, I can buy the Freedy key. And the key of swords. And the key is misplaced. I don't know what this box of the void is. It's been so long. It's a mysterious box. Okay, so we are in the plane of sky. This is Vishan's plane. We do not go there in any other game except for EQ1. Like you don't, well, that might not be true. We might touch it in there we go. It took me there eventually. There's the Noble Jorn. Okay, he didn't want to kill me. So we teleported up some. And you can kind of see. Oh, there's a presence. Hi, presence. Yeah, this is kind of what I wanted. I wanted you to be able to see kind of what her plane looks like. So you see harpies and wisps, called shimmering meteors, watchful guards. Oh, the storm mistress. Look at those old graphics. Look at her bell bottoms. Hell yes. The Overrealm does look the most similar to them, but it's not really the plane of sky so much as it's like over us. But yeah, it does in fact seem closest. Okay, what are... Oh, these Azracs are killing. And we'll just blow them up. If I can stop. Yeah. I don't care about any of this loot, do I? Nope. Apparently they are gonna keep attacking at me. Look at that. I bet you put those discs in like the box or something. Where is my perfect invis? That's my familiar. There we go. Oh, when we talked about the Rift Seekers, this is actually a Rift Seeker. So the Rift Seekers are a planar traveling race that we do not know all that much about, other than their realm also fell to discord and they were enslaved by Matamuram. Sure, let's see where we go. Who knows? Come on. Oh, I don't have the key. I bet you have to get the 4 pieces off those guys and then put them in a box. Like I said, it's been a while since I did any of this. I'll grab one of those just in case we need it. And in EQ1, I was taking us to, again, the precipice. This is the Precipice of Power. This is kind of close to maybe the Plane of Sky, but I don't really think it is. It only is close to it in that it's a big island with chains of islands after it. That's the wrong one. I don't want to go there. I want to go here. Yeah. That's what I thought. He's still dead. So you can come here, and on these smaller islands, there are altars, and you can actually summon some of the gods. But this, to me, looks a whole lot like Ulterra, so I think that this actually exists in Ulterra, in that in-between space. I think it's kind of anchored here by these altars of the gods, and it's a place for mortals, where mortals were allowed to give to kind of give to the gods. Burl's dead because I killed him. Okay. We're gonna take this lady back to wherever is home. Go home. Go. Oh, right. You can't gate. That's right. You can't gate or teleport. Sorry. In the Plane of Sky. So interestingly enough, the Plane of Sky, you can't gate or teleport. I think the Overrealm is actually probably the remnants of when Vishan and all the other gods pulled their planes back and tried to separate themselves from Norath, right? We have splinters and things like that were left behind, and I think the Overrealm in EQ 2 is what's left of that when she pulled back her presence. If anything, maybe it's kind of like a shard. But here's what happens when you jump out of the Plane of Sky. It's the only way to get out of the Plane of Sky. This is another reason I do not like this plane. I wonder what happens when we jump down here. We probably die, but we'll see. EQ2 is less forgiving, but look at that. Doesn't that look like Ulterra? Doesn't that look like the Sky of the Nexus? Look at that, I was right. I also think Vishan she's the goddess known as the heavens. Like I said, I think the stars, or the kind of like the galaxy, is her plane, the Plane of Sky, aka the Plane of the stars, which is where the heavens are. I think that that's one of the things that makes her unique among the gods. And it's her ability, her influence is greater than a single prime realm. It's greater than a single material plane. So let's go to Iris. I'm kind of going through some of my notes that I left to kind of So again, you have the prime material plane. You have the elemental planes that anchor the primal plane or the material plane, right? And since I'm here, we'll just go see it here. So this center is the primal plane. This is Norath, this is the universe, this is the galaxies, right? And it is anchored, right? This looks like anchors by the elemental planes. They anchor and keep us where we're supposed to be, but we are pulled towards chaos, towards direction, or towards discord, right? There's that saying that life pulls towards entropy, right? So that's where we have these intermediate planes that are the discord planes, are the entropy planes, the planes of chaos, and they are at war, right? So they pull us one way, the elements pull us another. The gods of discord, the leaders of discord like Manamuram, try to struggle and bring us towards war and chaos. Keraphim tried to bring us towards chaos, and we kind of come back towards order, right? The supreme kind of god of chaos or discord, if you wanted to have one, would probably be Keraphim, and that's why you have the Sentinel of Balance balanced out with Keraphim in Lucklin, and the world is reunited and everything becomes a balance, right? Even in Lucklin, when you meet Lucklin in EQ1, she talks about how you have to maintain the balance. And that is what's critical. And I think all the trouble that we have in EQ1 and EQ2 is all because the gods got too greedy and they banished Rowan Thyr, and so they subverted the balance. And because they subverted the balance, their material planes started to fall. That is a good question. So Vrak asked if Rowan Thyr is trapped with Keraphim in Lucklin, who's going to take on the role of balance. Rowan Thyr has been trapped outside of creation for a long time, and he's been working through mortals. You have a ton of different mortals who've been working as agents of Thyr, and I actually think that the new Sentinel of Balance is probably the duality. And that the Deepwater Circle is kind of acting as the Sentinels of Balance in the absence of Rowan Thyr. If you look at it, it kind of makes sense. Erudites are known for their ability to have extreme destructive power when they need to or want to. And Alcavor/Dartane represents that duality of good versus evil, of light versus dark, of, you know, the ability to do something and the will to do something and restraint. And I think that he plus the Deepwater Circle are kind of filling that role, but there is now nobody filling that role outside of Norath that we know of. And that could be why we're having so many issues. And I was here because I wanted to actually go to that's Dead Time Stories. That's where I want to go. I did actually really also in EQ1, I really like the Plane of Knowledge. The Plane of Knowledge, not only is it great for transportation, but the Plane of Knowledge just drowns you in lore. You can go to NPCs all over the Plane of Knowledge and say, hey, I want to read this book. Where did I end up? Where did I bind myself, you think? Oh, no, that's right. I jumped out of the Plane of Sky. When you jump out of the Plane of Sky, you end up in the water by Freeport. You end up outside of Freeport. run/swim through this water. There we go. You know what? We're just gonna gate now that we can gate. Should be in the plane of knowledge. While I head there, so let's talk about the gods who rule the planes. Does anybody offhand, without looking it up, know who this god is? It certainly is Finenro. Yep. So Finenro looks. This was his original picture that we were given of him. He is the god of fire. He is the Tyrant of Fire, in fact. And here he's clearly like a Jinn or an Afridi. But when they finally put him in game, they decided that this was far too kindly a look for the Tyrant of Fire, and they decided to make him very demon-like and kind of like a Nightblood. And so here is where we meet him in Doomfire when we go to kill him, and you can see he's got this window of like pure raw fire inside of him. Oh, I have things. Okay, I missed those things. That's nothing related to this. I had messages that I had missed, and I was afraid they were from here, but they were not. No messages. So this is Finenro in Plane of Fire in EQ1. And in EQ2, we meet Finenro. And we meet him. Look at that. It looks like we're in kind of like the end of Plane of Fire / part of the Void. And there he is with his big, massive, gross jaw and his angry flames. He doesn't have a flame belly this time. She's in... I don't even know where she's at. Where is she? Dragon Scale Hills. Alright. Let's log back on and go to fire. Because I've got all the keys. If you even still need to be keyed in EQ1, I don't know. You used to have to do these big, painful, long quests to get keyed. Oh yeah. EQ2 Finenro, and he is huge. Like, this picture of him, it just does not do justice. And yeah, I agree. I thought the way that they made Finenro look was kind of a little weird because he doesn't look like you would expect. And you also, in the Plane of Fire, don't see as many Jinn when you're in the Plane of Fire in EQ1 as you would expect. I actually don't see a lot of the creatures that I would expect to see in the Burning Lands. But yeah. And here, honestly, in EQ1, he looks kind of like a winged predator. He was huge in EQ1 as well, but yeah. I've only fought him in his base form, not in his fabled form. With his ugly predator mug everywhere. Good times. So let's log back on here. And in EQ2, here we are in the Plane of Fire. Which, again, if you aren't familiar with the lore of EQ2, since I clearly have people who are EQ1 people, if you, in EQ1, at the end of Pop, right, the gods were very, very mad at us, and they pulled their power back. In EQ2, the split, supposedly, is a 500-year split between the end of Planes of Power and the beginning of EQ2. And the gods first pulled their influence back, but it wasn't just the gods of influence that did that, it was the elemental gods. And one of the only reasons the elemental gods were able to do that was because Rowan-Thir was banished. But when they did that, it presumably is what caused the rending, which was massive cataclysms all across Norath. You had the land masses breaking apart, you had the seas going wild, you had volcanoes going off. Sounds a whole lot like the elemental gods pulling back their influence. And if you read I believe it's the Tome of Destiny, which is the original initial story that you got in EQ2, it tells you that the elemental gods agreed to follow whatever the gods of influence decided. And they all did this because they were really mad at us because we didn't just invade their planes. When you invade their planes in EQ1, when we go to kill, Finn and Ro, we actually, in the elemental planes we do kill them, but if we go to kill Enoric in the Plane of Hate, we aren't killing Enoric, we are killing his avatar, but his self, his power still exists, and he will reconstitute himself, right? That's why the gods come back. In EQ1, when Kha'Zix-Ul is killed, right? He actually is going to come back. He was killed in such a way in EQ1 where his power was shattered and dispersed, but he will eventually come back. He is not actually dead. The only reason in EQ2 we were able to kill Rallo-Sek is he was killed and his power was taken by his children. So when you go to the plane of time, though, and you kill the gods, you are killing and attacking their true selves, or getting close. So in EQ1, we got very, very close to actually killing the true selves of the gods, their soul and being, which could have had massive consequences on Norath, but it also meant that somebody else could, Plane of Time was a whole hell of a lot of fun. That's my other really favorite raid. No, mortals don't suck. Mortals rock. The gods suck. But this is Plane of Fire in EQ2, and you have lots of, the same stuff. You've got the horses and stuff like that. These are kind of things that I didn't expect to find when I first got into the Plane of Fire, but it's very, very similar. Just shattered. It's just pieces. Oh, yep, she's in the void. Let's take her back to... I don't remember where the teleporter is up. That's okay, we'll just gate. Nope, not that. Gate. Plane of Time was really fun because you had to do 3 separate raids. Basically, you had to split your raid force into 3 separate groups and do those different trials at the same time. One of the things I want to do is actually make people do that with me again, so that I can go see all the lore and stuff. We were being dicks because of treasure, but we were also, pissed at the gods. Oh yeah, Rallo-Sek is always planning awful things. So Ezekiel in EQ2, so one of the things that happens in EQ1 that has bearing on EQ2 is Solusek Ro starts to steal, he creates a hole between Finn and Ro, the Plane of Fire, Finn and Ro, Doomfire, and his plane, the Plane of Flame and Sun. And he starts channeling his father's power, which he should not have, into the Dresselis crystal. And he's planning in EQ1 to actually unleash the Dressilisk crystal. He actually has plans for it. If you talk, there's Rizlona is there, and she talks about using it. Yep. And in EQ2, the Dressilisk crystal is used to shatter. So the EQ2 Dressilisk crystal, that timeline, is used to shatter Lucklin. However, Lannis Teville goes back into EQ1 much later in EQ1's timeline and steals the EQ1 Dressilisk crystal and is trying to use it to like destroy well, she's going to destroy creation. I think she's on the side of Discord too, even if she is my girl. But she wants to kill her father, basically, and so that is the end game of Planes of Prophecy. Or, yeah, she wants to get into the plane of time so that she can kill her dad. That's the ultimate goal, is to kill her dad. Now, I did say. I mean, no, she really didn't. She destroyed his avatar, in such a way that she could have possibly taken his power, but she was not able to actually take his power. She wasn't able to kill Anoric. Like I said with the gods, you can't kill the gods until you kill their true selves, and their true selves only exist in the plane of time. So unless you kill them in the plane of time, you do not kill the god. So she almost killed him in EQ, in Kunark Ascending, where we see her basically kill him enough, but they talk about how his power is still there, and you see all the other demigods are starting to try to wrestle and go for his power. And they're trying to take his power. And the Sisters 3 tell you, no, he's still there. So as long as his power existed, he could reconstitute unless somebody else took it. And she was trying to take it, but she never actually kills him. You can only kill him in the plane of time. And when we're talking about this is tangential. But Opal Darkbriar is one of the original Dark Elves, one of the original Eldar Elves that was transformed into a Dark Elf, so she's one of the firstborn. Opal Darkbriar has fought a millennia-long shadow war. Yeah, Opal has been around for a long time, and she has fought. Yes, she wanted to disrupt the Divine Order. Yes, she was taking over Anoric's spot, but Saren, Terrathul, and Ulkoruk were going to be her demigods. Ulkoruk kind of joined in at the end, but they had lost their power with the rending. When the gods had their council and pulled away, they all lost power because the gods of influence are tied to the prime plane that they come from, right? They hate on Norath drives Anoric's power. He has hate. I don't think she's a full god. I think she still manages to be a demigoddess. But I haven't done the Vadenmore raid, so I don't have that lore right in front of my face. But Anoric never fully lost his power, so I don't know how she would assume that power and become a god. But yeah, Opal Darkbriar is the original, and I could be wrong. Again, I haven't done that raid. I did, and Terrathul reassumed her position as the goddess of nightmares, and as a 10 and a pay, as Lannis was the demigoddess or the goddess of malice. I did both the adventuring and the crafting. Opal is counter to Opal. I will always mispronounce his name wrong. Opal. who is also one of the original Dark Elves. He is one of the Mystic Three, so is she, who were prophesied to not be able to be defeated in combat or in battle, which is one of the reasons they're still alive. But he ended up rejecting Anoric's influence, and he has fought a shadow war against Opal throughout the millennia. He has also been a Dark Elf general whose name is escaping me right this minute, but he was a Dark Elf general who actually fought the elves at Takashiz, some of the remaining elves at Takashiz. He was one of the closest advisors and the leader of the elves in the Combine Empire. And he was one of the core advisors of the Emperor Kata. And so he actually helped save Kata's life and pretended to be Kata, and led Seru's forces after him while they hid Kata, presumably on Lucklin, which in EQ1 we find out he didn't actually go to Lucklin, he was stuck on Norath. But when he is hidden away, it is actually Opal in illusion form as Kata, who leads the boats across the Ocean of Tears to what was at that point in time called the Landing, but what was originally Wheel, a city or a Dark Elf outpost, and what would eventually become Freeport. So Opal is the original founder of Freeport. He also had prophetic abilities, so he's one of the original oracles. And his ultimate goal was to enter the plane of time and kill Anoric. So when you go to do the quest of Tartan's Wheel, both in the Wheel of Time in EQ1 and EQ2, you get information about him. And how he wants to enter the plane of time, because that's the only way to truly kill the gods, is to enter the plane of time and kill them. Your questions aren't dumb. There are no dumb questions at all. This is all hypothetical. We're talking and thinking and figuring stuff out about a video game. And thanks for tuning in. So yeah, Plane of Fire. And where is my EQ1 window? I have many windows going, if you can't tell. So let's close Finn and Row. There's Finn and Row. Okay, so while I am finding my EQ1, did it crash? No, it's there. Okay, there we go. The next god to kind of talk about, we can talk about Doomfire a little bit. So this is where there's tons of obsidian forests. There's what's known as the Flame Tongue River. You have magma and volcanoes. You have the Jopal, which are these elemental creatures. They're kind of the methods that you see, and they are native to Doomfire. You have different NPCs. You have the Phoenixes here, the Planar Fire Phoenixes, as well. Where is... I should actually zone her into the plane. But yeah, I had a ton of fun in Plane of Fire in EQ1, both raiding and soloing. I mained an enchanter, and I charm soloed out there, or charm duoed for days, and just had a ton of fun. Back before they made so many changes. 1 second. Thank you to my moderator for catching stuff that I missed. All right. But yeah, we get fire on Norath. We have, you know, the ability to have heat because our plane touches the plane of Doomfire. And Doomfire in EQ2 is much diminished because the gods were stupid and they didn't have Rowan Thyr to keep him in check. Because we kicked Rowan Thyr out. I never did figure out why the plane of tranquility touches everything. Why, I guess peace. Maybe because it's the counter to Discord. Another thing that I think is interesting and I suspect is actually true, and is probably hidden cosmology, I guess, is I think you have Vishan, and I think Vishan's counterpoint is Brel, and that's why you can touch the plane of sky and you can touch the Underfoot. I think the two are kind of quintessentially connected. Yeah, I am sad that we don't really go to Plane of Tranquility either. And I wonder if that isn't because Quellius sacrificed so much of herself to protect Norath. She's back. We see her. We see her in EQ2. But we never go to her plane. And you can see Plane of Knowledge is only the library and a couple of extra islands now, whereas before it was this, you know, big bustling town. And we also know that Quellius did a lot of protecting of like the island of Mara as well. I think she may have just spent too much of her power. That, or maybe she just doesn't want us there. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me either. We're not particularly peaceful. And here is Doomfire. Good old Doomfire in EQ1. And again, you can see the map is just way bigger. Oh, wow. How about I probably could take... Oh, yeah, I could take you, but I'm not going to right now. These are the Jopals that I was talking about, the methods. You have all these... And this is not what I expected when I came here. I didn't come here expecting, you know, to see lots of spiders. I expected to see the flame elements and things like that. You know, creatures like this, sure. But I 100% did not expect to see spiders. No, I've played EQ1 since 2000. So I stopped raiding in EQ1 and stopped like super actively playing around Omens of War. Yeah. So I have played both games on and off since their release, which is why I have so much esoteric knowledge about the lore that most people probably don't have and don't care about. But I do to this day, enough to create a website and to do things. Yeah, I got really frustrated with a lot of the changes in Gaze of Discord and Omens of War. It was just not fun. I mean, there were some fun parts of it, like you had to charm. The best way to do this one raid was to charm, dungeon that you had to do for King was to charm creatures and use them as tanks. But they did so much nerfing of our abilities. Yeah. Oh, where do I go to get over this? It's been too long. Okay, you have to go through here. I see. So, Plane of Fire. Let's talk about the other elemental gods, because yes, this is my favorite, but it's just me. I'm sure people can guess who this is. Anybody? Our winged elven goddess? Ziggy. I have mad love for Ziggy because it was my server in EQ1. So this is our original artwork. And then we also see her in EQ1 and in EQ2. And here she is in EQ1. She is the queen of air and the queen of rainbows and sprites and lightness. And then in EQ2, we also meet her. She looks pretty similar in EQ2. She's got a little bit of the Firiona Vi / Tunar treatment, I think. But she looks pretty on point with the images that we are always given for her. I am Obsidian. What guild were you in? I was in, and still am in, Dark Templars. I was in the guild that everybody hated. The name Sobek seems familiar. But yeah, I was in Dark Templars. I am Obsidian. I've been Obsidian for forever. I'm also in EQ2. I'm D. Oh, did I take damage? Looks like I did. And I got things on me. Oh, bother. What spells do I have up? How about you become my friend? Actually, for that matter. Draco and Victus is familiar. I was also in, I raided with Soldiers of Fortune for a little bit. Dark Templars was my primary. I did, let's see. Oh, what was that guild? I ran Citizens of Sanctuary. I role-played in Elnar and Defilith. Mad love for Ziggy. Oh yeah. Yeah. I had one friend in Havenlight, but you're right. Everybody hated Havenlight, which is funny. Havenlight had lots of jerks in it, no doubt. But like Mac and Shin, actually, it was Mac and Shin, Inner Circle, and Havenlight, and those guilds all hated Dark Templars because we were the Euro guild. I'm not Euro. But I was in school at the time, and their raid times were right after I got out of my classes, and so I would come home and go raid, and so we raided right when the servers came up. So we always got our choice of, well, a couple hours after the servers came up. So we got our choice of whatever mobs we wanted for the week, and that used to piss people off because we got to decide what we were going to raid, because everything was contested. So if we wanted to do, Ralosec, we did Ralosec. Oh, everything's season is here. Ugh, that's stupid. I mean, it was to keep you from. So we've got Ziggy right there. Goddess of Air. So Ziggy is one of the goddesses who actually kind of doesn't really pay as much attention to mortals. She and Fenro actually generally don't. So she is the goddess of Eryslai, if I'm pronouncing it right. Eryslai, the Kingdom of Wind, is kind of the part of the plane of air that touches our realm. Just like Doomfire is the part of the plane of fire. And these are only tiny parts. Again, this is just the part that touches our world. And Ziggy is all about like this eternal, gentle kind of beauty. They're more peaceful. And there's a lot of like mystery and magic that come from her. Arcane secrets. A lot of her elemental creatures are like the djinn and things like that. So whereas fire creatures tend to be very destructive, the ones in the plane of air, they can absolutely, screw you over. See, look, it's baby Solusek Row. Yeah, trying to get through my shield. Wonder, can I make you my friend? Hell yeah, get over here and defend me. Oh, nope, he resisted, or can't be charmed. It's okay. Yeah, we'll take that. I'll give that to somebody. Oh, is he just mezzed? Yep, he's just mezzed. So there is some rumors that the Sphinxes were maybe a creation of Ziggy. And what we have to realize is one of the things that we're told is the gods of influence are the ones who put all the races on Norath. But we know that there is bleed over between the elemental planes and Norath. And so there are elemental creations on Norath. Ezekiel, do you have a, are you a paying? Do you have station membership or whatever? I cannot remember. Are you a subscriber? There's the word I was looking for. I can talk, honest, promise. I just probably been talking too long. I was gonna say you can update and install. That's what I did, and I've actually been pulling out and going and visiting all the different planes. So you can go to the Underfoot now, and you can go to Little Underfoot and Big Underfoot. So it's pretty interesting to me. Oh, but see, you have actual, when you come into here, you have actual like a city, right? Oh, ooh, this might hurt. This might hurt. So this is a fabled event. While I am sitting here trying to make sure I don't die. Yeah, that's what I thought. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Come on, Sparkler. Kill him. Oh, did the slow not go off? Look at that, going through the plane of fire. Didn't think I was going to actually find something that could hurt me, and I forgot that it's fabled time, so the fabled versions of things are in. During the anniversary events, they put fabled versions of your old characters in, or the old NPCs in, and they can absolutely hurt you. It's a mix, I would say. Some things can absolutely be soloed, and some content can absolutely be soloed. It depends on what your mercenaries are, I would say. Sure, we'll take him. We can put him in the house. Oh, look at those. Get those spells. I know that I can solo a lot of things, but I also do a box too. And both characters don't have to be on a paid account. It just helps if they are, because you get auto granted your AAs now. So like I didn't solo to get, well, this character's kind of not fair because I have actually, leveled up some of the AAs, but you can see I have like 7,000 AAs that were assigned, and then I spent 700. So I had earned 700 AAs, but they have assigned me 7,000 AAs. And you just start automatically getting them once you hit a certain point, which is super handy. Come on, go up the stairs, please, and thank you. So we discussed plane of earth, or plane of air. And plane of air is again in EQ2, it's like that, right? It's full of light, fluffy things. It's, flying serpents and I lost my orientation for the exit. Huh. They auto-assign your AAs. And I would double check to see if that actually is still the case. They've actually been fixing a lot of the animations and things like that. They put significant work into EQ1. There's a lot more support for it because it is a more popular game than EQ2. and not only is it more popular, but like its rating population is significantly larger. My mom still raids, so they might have fixed the animation. Oh, I am getting attacked. What are you doing, Sparkler? Are you just not killing them? Oh, they're all getting missed by my aura. Oops. So outside of Ziggy, we have killing her was a miserable fight for Shadow Knights because they literally she does massive mana drains. So they used to just have to sit down and stand up and cast their mana regen on people. Also lots of ads. They put a lot of effort into EQ1. It is definitely and the I actually prefer the housing in EQ1 because you have full neighborhoods. So I could have you as my neighbor. Or if we have a guild neighborhood, only members of the guild can have homes there. And you can set your anchor to where you teleport to your house. You get a little teleport item. And they've actually been significantly upgrading graphics. So we're looking at old graphics because we're looking at old content. But if you were to go into now, Neriac has its fourth gate. They actually put its fourth gate in EQ2 or in EQ1. You would see what you see in EQ2. Like you'd be going, oh my goodness, I recognize so much of this. We don't want to play with her, I don't think. This is what I remember. And then you go that way to get to Finn and Row. Here. Rather than just sit here and kill all this stuff that I don't need to kill, nobody really cares all that much. Let's talk about our next god. I don't think I'm going to get terribly into the gods of influence tonight unless somebody asks. I think I'm going to focus more on the elemental gods. No, where did I put that? Back here. That's Earth and Badlands. There it is. Aerial Side, the Kingdom of Wind. Just go peek in there. And again, it's the sharded aspect of itself. There we go. Okay, so if we talk about water, water is the Triumvirate of Water. Much like the Council of Earth is counted as one single NPC, the Triumvirate of Water is counted kind of in that same way, despite the fact that it's made up of 3 different individuals. This is Isi, or Ice. Many of our gods in EQ are anagrams. So Isi is Ice. We do not see her in EQ1. Unless there's something in some of the newer content, we never run into her. But interestingly enough, and again, I have not seen her. I did not do the raids, but in EQ2 we do see her. And she looks very much like her. You would expect her to look in EQ2. She looks pretty good. She is battle goddess. So she's the material essence of ice, and it's the solid form of water that she kind of imbues. And there are 3 of them because obviously when you are in water, there are 3 natural forms of water. I do not have a flying mount. I'm just levitating while I'm on a mount in EQ2 or in EQ1. Yeah, I think EC looks really good. EC is rumored to be kind of tyrannical. She, according to the gods of influence and nature, she is very, very devoted to the balance of her realm against other elemental powers, and some of the lesser pantheons, so the gods of influence and nature, are kind of afraid of her. And like I said, we've only seen her in EQ2. I do not know that lore, because I did not encounter her. You don't see her in the main storyline. And then we have Povar. And this is Vapor. And we basically never see Povar, which he's the veiled one, so you would kind of expect to not see Povar because he's Vapor. And Povar is neither male nor female, and is not tangible or incorporeal. So it would be fair to say that Povar is trans. Povar is the in-between god. And Povar doesn't actually care or notice the wheel of nature and influence. The only thing that Povar ever seems to care about is the aspect of water that it's in charge of, or that they are in charge of. So that's our Povar. And then you have the third of the Triumvirate of Water, and this is probably the one who actually cares the most about influence. This is Terumar. Yes, this is the father of Erelisi and Nathaniel. And we have, I think he's in a game in EQ2, but I have not personally seen him, but I have a model that was provided for us by EQ2 devs. So this is Terumar in model. And he is considered the first member, or the dominant member of the Triumvirate of Water, as is the fact that his name is Watermar. He is the sole lord and commander of water, which is the most abundant form of the element. He is believed to have given physical form and intelligence to the influences of love and valor in the personages of Erelisi and Nathaniel. So not that he gave them birth, but he saw the influences and actually took the influences and I guess elevated them to gods. So he cares the most out of the Triumvirate of Water. So the Triumvirate of Water doesn't actually, when you never actually fight EC and Povar and Terumar. What they did as a Triumvirate is they decided to form a avatar that was a combination of all three of their powers. And that avatar is Kornav. And this is what Kornav looks like in EQ1. And like I said, raiding him was awful because you were underwater, and that was miserable because you got bounced everywhere. Oh, this is plane of air in EQ2. Very light and fluffy. And rainbows and fairies and unicorns, oh my. So they they had a meeting. The Triumvirate of Water had a meeting to create a avatar that would embody the three of them in unity. They call Cornav a creation of pure, untainted being that represents them equally. And it leeches part of their essence in order to combine it into the mind, body, and soul of an avatar. So they actually performed a ritual, and that ritual led to Cornav. And he actually had to grow up. He had to grow up and grow into his power, and he has 3 separate bases of power, vapor, ice, and liquid. And he exists, and we get some rockin' art for him in EQ2. So we're given that picture of him in some EQ2 art. I don't think we actually kill him in EQ2. Somebody could correct me if I was wrong, but we do definitely encounter aspects of him. And thankfully, when we go into Eudor, the Unresting Waters, where he exists, interesting. I'd forgotten that there wasn't a contested version. We're just gonna go to Mars Ascent. But you are actually underwater, but you're in a breathing section, so you don't have to fight underwater. Yeah, plain water is awful. I hated it. It was especially miserable when you were a caster, because you were never able to cast a spell. Plane of Water is home to a bunch of, as you would expect, water creations. So the Harakis and the Regrua tribes are these different, like, fish people. You've got, like, crustacean and fish people. Yeah, there we go. See, here we're actually trapped in bubbles of water. And we're trapped back in the water. I think every water level that they do in EQ2 just looks so pretty, personally. And I really like this zone in EQ2 as well, as much as the Plane of Hate holds a very, very special place in my heart. This zone is just gorgeous, between the colors that you have and the water and the model designs. I just really like it. It's very gorgeous. But luckily we're on land, we're on bridges, we're not actually swimming around in the water getting knocked around. So the last of our elemental gods is the mighty Wraith. And the Wraith Council is actually, interestingly enough, the gods that have been, the elemental gods that have been the most involved with mortals and mortal kind. They have actually cared the most about what's going on with mortals. And I suspect this is because, again, as the elements interact with mortals, the plane of Earth, the Earth is what mortals live on, right? This is what our mortal races exist on. We build our houses there, we build our cities. And so I think that the Wraith probably feels our echoes and care about mortals more often than the actual other elemental gods. They are more down to earth, as you might say. The Earth, of course, or the Wraith is an anagram for Earth. The Wraith also represents the only elemental god to ever have successfully been killed. They were not killed by mortals. They were, or not killed by just mortals. They were killed by, there were used to be 13 members of the Wraith. It used to be a council of 13. And then Ralosek did his traditional stupid thing, and he invaded the plane of Earth with his armies. And in EQ1, you can actually, I showed you how we have Void, and Void is linked to time. Well, you actually take portals into the past. And what happens is the gods of Discord have been given too much influence in that particular time. So Zebaraxuk is there to tell you that the gods of influence have really screwed things up, and by making the decisions they've made, because they pull away in EQ1 too, and their pulling away in EQ1 is what causes the veil to lift from Natembi, and we actually, those places in Discord that were, locked off from us, and because they lifted that veil, the attentions of Discord became greater, and so between the hubris of the gods and the hubris of mortals, we basically screwed over the world, and the gods of Discord went back in time and were able to disrupt certain events, and so we have to go fix those certain events and kind of make sure they're locked the way that they should be. And one of those things that we actually ironically have to go do is work to ensure that the Relosian invasion into the plane of Earth goes through. And so we see that, and we encounter, the orcs as they are going in and things like that. So we see that event, and it's actually very, very fascinating. I have not unlocked all of it yet. It's one of those things that I'm working on in EQ1. But there are 12 members of the Wraith as opposed to 13 now. And the Wraith originally was drawn like that. And in EQ1, it was imagined like that. And you could mesmerize half of them, and the other half of them had to be tanked. And if somebody screwed up, they all came, and then you had to start all over again. Here's a close-up of them in EQ1. And there's what they look like. Hey, again, a representation of them in EQ2, courtesy of devs. So one of the things that you have in the plane of Earth is there's these creatures called the Vagarogs. You can see them both in EQ1 and in EQ2. So these are the Vagarogs right here. And let's do this, and let's see if we can go. Look in there again. Let's see if we can go see some in EQ2. And the Vagarogs are actually the remnants of Ralosek's army, and they were cursed by the Wraith. So when the Wraith lost, when the Wraith Council was disrupted, the Wraith Mountains actually rose up in their anger, and at the loss of their 13th member, their tiers formed the Lake Wraith Tier in the Wraith Mountains. And that's why you have the Wraith Mountains and Lake Wraith Tier. Because Ralosek is a jerk, and I'm glad we killed him. And I can, for anybody who's interested in any of these, I am on Discord, and you can always ask me for any of these pictures and things like that. I am also working on my, oh yes, Rattles had it coming, my lore website. which is Oscurus or New Tannin. So you can go to Obscure, or you can go to newtannin.com, which is the name for the Plane of Knowledge. Chroniclers of Norath in and of itself is not just me. I am Obsidian, or D. But there are 2 others that also have access to stream on this. We are a group of lore nerds who kind of created a lore channel and started going from there. Let's see. I know these guys are in here. I have killed them. I think they are through this gate. You know, I should probably unmentor too. I'm mentored down so that I could go kill the gods. Look, the public quest is up. Never a cheeky. Yep. Where are these guys? See, these are other things I didn't expect. I didn't expect to see Vulax and, see, these are Vulax, right? These are air races, and that suggests that some of these races were created by, our elemental gods, right? And that our elemental gods kind of shared them with each other. So when we talk about the races of Norath, right? There are certain things we know that are made and created different ways, but they never talk about who made the Aviax and all these different races. I don't think these are them, but they could be them. They certainly look like creepy enough and cursed. No, I think those things are still sitting there somewhere in here. It's just been a while since I've done Plane of Earth too. Thought I remembered him somewhere in here. But yeah, I'm happy to provide information. If there's one of the things I'd like to ask those few of you who are still hanging around after 2 hours, which I appreciate. I don't do this to just talk to myself. I do this to share things that are interesting to me with people. Is there a particular topic that you would find interesting or compelling, or that you would like to have discussed? One of the next things I'm kind of thinking of doing is going through the different elemental gods and some of the impacts that they have had on Norath. This was kind of the foundation for that. Talked about housing. I should go there. It is. It has, but again, it also has a lot more mud, right? So if we go back to that planar image, one of the things that you do is in EQ2 is you actually are trying to, protect the elemental planes from the influences of Discord, right? And this is in EQ2 through the pop lore is the first time they actually start to talk about fog, mud, lava, and steam. And those planes of Discord have always existed. That, again, I've kind of got it overlaid here. You can see that was originally part of Bill Trost's intent. And one of the things that's hard to see is if you look above steam, it says light. And if you look towards the bottom of the map, it says darkness. So he envisioned that the lighter parts of the Pantheon were, ironically enough, air and fire, and the darker sides were earth and water. And so mud is the kind of influence. It's the blurring of those lines, right? More mud, the gods backed off, and more of the influences of those planes of discord. So in fire, we see more lava, right? When we were there. And in water, you noticed that we actually didn't have as much water. We had whole areas where there's no water. As much as I'm happy about that, it still exists. But yeah, there's a ton more water and mud. It's much muddier. I mean, it was always earthy, but even there, see, you've got lots of mud elementals and mud globs and everything else. I'm gonna head to the housing section just to kind of keep lagging because this is a lag file and I'm running too many things on my computer. Pardon me while I run into this wall in a quintessential EverQuest experience where you lag at some point and have to run into the same thing. It just wouldn't be the same EverQuest without it. Right? Right? Alright, let's search for guild. Let's go to citizens. Speaking of running into walls, flying into the walls, same thing. And again, you know, I keep talking about Ulterra as the space between planes, and the travel space, but look at the sky, look at the way it bleeds, right? Look at how that looks a whole lot like Ulterra. So Ulterra is like the transitive plane. In between. Oh, look at the Baroness of Earth. She's so pretty. I don't know where these Mudite golems are, but I know that I've seen them. I'm just not seeing them now. Oh, hey. It's a shiny. I break for shinies. It might be inside. I know I've seen them in here. But the game is just trying to prove me as a liar. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. So this is Eq2 Housing. Right? So this is one person's house. Right? And look, she's got her little garden gnome over there and she's got some pets. And you can actually zone inside of her house. If you click on the door, she's got a mailbox. You can zone inside of her house. Or you can pop over to her neighbor's house right here. Her neighbor has not done much to that house. Outside at least. But you can go inside their neighbor's house. Right? And there are whole neighborhoods. So any of these squares is a plot. And you can buy a different plot. And then there's a guild plot where you can put your guild house as well in these neighborhoods. And this is kind of like a communal trading area with some very interesting art. For those who don't know, that image is Aeone Ro, goddess of magic. And the musicians are performing in front of her. Then you can see there's Moral Thule and Terrace Thule. Gods of Dreams. What's that picture? Picture is a weaving of, I'm not sure. A little hard to tell. And here, just different people selling. Oh, I talked about how Alarans are from a different planet. This is an Alaran. And they actually are on a hidden island in Norath that they have taken over, and their gods actually try to take over one of our gods. They try to take the power of Khazad-Thul. They fool us into killing with Terrath-Thul and Moral-Thul into killing Khazad-Thul and try to take his power, and then they open up the way for a god of discord who was from their original planet of Alaris to kind of take that place, and his name is Alaric, and he tries to, and he keeps fooling us and tries to get us to do that as well. And we stop him just barely, but he was the god of darkness and despair. So this is a house, and there's a house, and there's a boathouse. And you can have multiple houses. So there's the house up on a hill over here. This is why I really like housing. And then the guild hall, I think in this, there's not a lot of people, but I think the guild hall, there we go. All the music, by the way, today has been courtesy of EQ and EQ2. It is a playlist directly from the games. Some of these plots also have water on them. Oh, is that it? Yeah, there's the guild hall up there. I knew it was on a hill. So you can kind of plot around. So, to kind of close my stream out, because I've been doing this for 2 hours now, this is that original map loaded on top of each other. Interesting things are, if we look at the material plane and we look at how it delves down, I'm going to use this and then I'm going to go back on to the original drawing. Hopefully it's not too hard to read. So if you remember that the in-between elemental planes, right, are planes of discord. Earth has the influences of growth and the underworld. So that would be the Underfoot. Not the Etherneer. Fire has flame and disease. Those are paired together. And if you notice, these are two things that are kind of counteract each other, right? So it's balance. So you have, and you can see that because if you go across Earth, so you have growth in the underworld, and across Earth, so the underworld is the underfoot, and you have sky, and you have, it looks like storms and growth. So storms are destructive versus growth. If you go to water, you have health and oceans, and then flames and disease. If you go to it, and then if we start to look at the planes of discord, you have in fog mischief and peace, and they are counteracted by lava's justice and war. So your diametric opposites are always they're always diametrically opposed on the wheel, right? And so opposite steam has love and valor, and opposite that is fear and hate. So you kind of have this wheel of opposites and this wheel of balance, and it's very intentional. It's to promote that balance, to keep everything in balance. Even the planes of discord have their purpose in the Great Wheel, as long as everything stays in balance. But with the banishing of Rowan Thyr, the balance was disrupted, and the Nameless doesn't directly influence creation. He can't directly influence creation. Remember, he created creation by making the elemental gods, the elemental planes. And through the elemental planes, the Primal Plane came into being. The interaction of those elemental planes is what creates the material plane or the prime plane. And the gods of influence are actually the natural production of both the influence of the elemental gods and also sentience, right? The gods of influence in nature are natural experiences, growth, right? Life lives. You have fire, you have storms and the sky, right? And then you have the emotional, right? Fear and hate and love and valor are discordant, and those all come from mortals, right? In fog and lava, justice and war, peace and mischief, those are all mortal influences, right? So your gods of nature align more closely with the elements, and your gods of influence align more naturally with your gods of discord. And it's not just discord; it's closer to kind of saying entropy. So I think next time I will either be doing a stream where I go through the different. I'm going to start to go through all the different signature quest lines in EQ2. I will to capture the lore and kind of talk about the lore. Probably also going to do some on EQ1 in the future, but not right now. And I will probably also do the next stream will either be the signature quests and the primary lore quests, or it will be the going through the gods of influence and discussing, some of the gods of influence and showing what they've looked like over the time. If anybody has anything that they would like to see or they're particularly interested in seeing, any topics that they're interested in talking about, I would love to hear it. You can email me. Let me pull up that email just to make sure I spell it right. You can contact me on Discord. Chances are, if you heard about this, you heard about it through Discord. That is the most likely chance. So you can contact me at obsidian.valdroth@gmail.com. You can also email us at chroniclersofnorath@gmail.com. Obsidian.valdroth is going to get me directly. I will eventually have a contact form up on the website, ascuris.com. Or you can, like I said, through Discord. My name on Discord in general channels is Why Hello There. Let's see. So you can reach out to me. And that there, whyhellothere.7916 in Discord if you have any questions for me, or comments, or suggestions on things that I can do to improve. The things that didn't go very well or that bored you, I would love to improve and get better as a streamer. I don't do this to talk to myself. I do this to hopefully be entertaining to others and to give them information and share my passion. Other than that, I would like to say thank you very much to everybody who tuned in. I very, very much appreciate it. I appreciate the questions and the feedback, and I hope you all have a lovely evening.